I think you need to choose how good you want to be. How good you want to be. Because if greatness is the evaluation of the quality of our work, then goodness is the evaluation of the essence. And in sport, there's a lot of things that are great, but they're not very good. Many of you know what the Tour de France is, that cycling race. That's like, remember somebody won it 7 times. 7 times. You don't get more great than that. How good was it? You know the story of it? That was Lance Armstrong. Won it 7 times. Since then, he's been stripped of all 7 of those. Because what we learned later was all kinds of steroid and other performance-enhancing drug use. And the forcing of it on other players in there, on other cyclists in their group. Because Tour de France really is a team winning that. Picking a key person, and then the rest of the team works to help them win. And so there's all kinds of cheating and abuse in it. Never taken away. It was great, but it wasn't good. I bet you can think of those things in your own country. High-level performance, that was great. But when we learned more about how they got there, the cheating, the abuse, not very good. This is a category that makes you great. This is the category that makes you great. Moral attributes are relational. Performance attributes are directed pretty much at me. See, if I don't remain, or if I don't persevere, I won't get to my goal. But that doesn't necessarily affect anyone else. That's just about me. But if I violate these, I will always violate somebody else. So we're going to take a look at those attributes. I'm going to ask some of you who are up close to do something for me. We're going to put under these categories of greatness and goodness. Attributes of greatness and attributes of goodness. And I'm just going to pick up one of these. There's 13 of them here. They're flipped over like this. The last time I used this was in Ethiopia. So that's their language. If you can read it, good for you, but you can turn it around, and there's the English word. So either way, mercy. Is that an attribute of greatness or goodness? Goodness. Goodness. That's right, because mercy is always reflected towards someone else. If there is no one else, there is no issue of mercy. Mercy is always a relational. So, what I do is I'll come up here and I'll put it under here. So that's what I want you to do. Just pick up the first one because they all have tape on it, and if you start moving them around, they might get stuck together. So, I want you to come up. Coaches, this is what we say to our athletes. Who's motivated? Who's going to step up? Just come up, pick out one of these, and put them under the category you think it belongs. And if the longer you wait, the longer it goes before we have a break. So that's sort of up to you. So, let's go, coaches. Come on. Especially those of you who are up close here and get here. Come up, pick up one of these words, and put it under the category you think it belongs. Ready? Come on. Step up. That's what I like to see. Just pick one of the words, put it where you. We'll talk about it. We may shift words. Let's see. Remember, think about it. Does this attribute help me achieve my goal, or does this attribute connect to relationships? might have flipped that one around unless you can read it. I didn't. I thought you might read Ethiopia. Okay. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about it and see about moving them or not. Okay, is that all of them? Thank you. Thank you all for stepping up. Now, would any of you make a case for moving one of the words, and not just the word, but why you would move it? Anybody? I need to look at it myself. Would you move any of the words?
I'll move myself.
Yes, which one?
Grit.
Grit?
Okay.
Yeah, grit, because if I don't demonstrate it, it doesn't mean I violate somebody else. Grit is that kind of stick-to-itiveness. It's different than perseverance. But it's the same category, I would say. This is part of what it takes to be great. This is part of what it takes to be great. Any other words?
Patience.
Patience. Where's patience? I'm
That's
trying to be patient here.
justice to move.
What? See, part of it is this. It's how we define the word. So kind of work on a common definition. Because there's a couple of them. Like, I'm going to give you the toughest word out there. Because of how we define it. Teamwork. Teamwork is for what purpose? We work together as a team. Why? To achieve our goal, to be great. So, though there is a sense of goodness to it. That's not why we do teamwork. If we can achieve our goal better individually than as a team, guess what? We're going to work individually. We do this as a team, not for the sake of teamwork, but for the sake of achieving a goal. So that's why this one can be a little more difficult, because it does involve others, but it doesn't involve them morally. It involves them performance-wise. So, put this one over here.
Sacrifice.
Someone said that justice should move.
There's a couple more. Let's take the first one. We'll go second. Sacrifice. Why?
Why we sacrifice? Why? Because for you to be great, it requires a lot of
It
sacrifice.
requires, and for you to be good, it does too, but not necessarily. We sacrifice for the sake of something else. It is not really a value in and of itself. It's only valuable if I'm sacrificing. It's for the thing that I want. It's a fuel. It is a fuel. Any other words?
Honest.
Honesty.
Honest.
There's one more that we need to move.
Patience.
Justice.
Justice. If I'm unjust, I automatically violate somebody else. It automatically costs. If I cheat, it's at the expense of somebody else. Justice is a moral attribute. Justice, because if there were no other people, justice would not be an issue. Think about this, if I'm in the world all by myself, these still apply. These don't. If there's nobody else, then what's the point of kindness? If there's nobody else, what's the point of honesty? If there's nobody else, what's the point of justice? It requires relationship. It's moral. So let me move these out and fill the gaps. Because when you look at these categories, which one, when we say sports builds character, which one are we almost always talking about? Which one are we talking about? Sports builds character. Which column? Or do we think both columns? All the words that we talked about before, what category were they in? Greatness. Yeah. Yeah, because you cannot achieve your goals. Well, there's another category, by the way. There's this where you have things like this. Those are moral in a sense as well. Because when I focus on these, it's always in relationship to somebody else. If there is no one else, there is no jealousy. If there is no one else, there is no revenge. If there is no one else, selfishness doesn't apply, because selfishness means I want it for me instead of you. If there is no you, I really can't even be selfish. These categories always require somebody else. And that's why they're moral. Anybody ever coached out of this category? Besides me? In the past? I talked about revenge. Another word, I love how one of the translations of the Bible in Philippians 2:2, it says, do nothing out of rivalry or selfish ambition. Rivalry. Is rivalry a pretty thing or an ugly thing? In fact, when this fuels this, what does it look like? Just gave it away. Yeah. When my attributes of greatness fuel my attributes of badness, you see some of the most ugly things. And you see them on the field, you see them in the stands, and many times we excuse it. That's just how the game's played. Just how it's played. When you see this fuel this, what word comes to mind? Some of the most beautiful things. What? Rivalry is an interesting thing. Do countries have rivalries? When you think of Nigerian football, who's your rival? Ghana? Cameroon? Ivory Coast? You guys must have a lot of rivalry.
In short, the whole Africa.
The rest of Africa.
The rest of Africa.
Does that bring to mind, when you think of that, all of that, anything in the goodness category? No. That's why I say, remember that coaching clinic that I told you I was at? Where I talked to the coaches about how good you want to be? Well, it was about 2 hours later, I left to fly home. And I left to fly home. And it was a 2-segment flight. So I was flying from Pennsylvania flying from Pennsylvania, do a little bit, from Pennsylvania to Chicago, and then Chicago to Minneapolis. That was my flight plan, two trips. When I got to the airport, remember this is almost 20 years ago, so I got to this new kind of ticket counter that actually gave you your tickets with a screen. It was new. But on the screen it said this: your flight from Chicago to Minneapolis is overbooked. We've sold too many seats. Would you be willing to give up your seat? Do you know what that means if you give up your seat? Do you know what happens when you do that? Well, tell me if this is a sacrifice. The airline is still responsible to get you home on one of the next flights, and they give you a bunch of money to do that. Now, is that a sacrifice? No. It's an opportunity. This is almost 20 years ago, and they were going to give me $300. $300 is, when you do the simple math, is almost $1,000 today. $300 20 years ago, with inflation, is almost $1,000 today. So if it were today, they would say, we're going to give you $900 today. $300, that's what it was worth 20 years ago. Do you know what my thought was? Sweet. I want that bump. I'm going home. I can wait. It's not like I'm going to the clinic and I've got this deadline. I'm going home. I got time. In fact, I got more time than I got money. And they're offering me money for my time. That was my thought. I want that. So I signed up. No guarantee that you get it. You just get on the list. So here's my thought. On this whole flight, from here to here, about 2 hours, this is what I was thinking. I want that bump. I'm going to get on that bump. I'm going to be the first one in line when we get off this plane. I'm running to that place where you got to finish signing up because I want that. That was my thought. Other people may want it, but I'm going to get it. That was my thought the whole time. And then the plane lands here. And as we were taxiing to get to the gate, my faith tradition is Christian. I believe that God still talks to me. At least I believe He talked to me at that point. Rarely do I say that, but that was one of the times. And many times, if you know Scripture, Jesus talked to people using questions more than anything else. And I felt like God asked me a question. The question was this: how good is that? Only 2 hours earlier, I'd been talking to coaches about goodness. And now the question in my mind is, how good is what's going on in my mind? If you could pick 2 words from this board, I want you to pick 2 words from this board. One from this column, and one from either one of these columns. A greatness characteristic and a moral characteristic. I want you to pick 1 word from this column and 1 word from these columns that would best describe my motivation in my heart. What words would they be?
Selfishness.
And what about from this one? I would pick focus. Focus. That's, man, my focus was on getting that. My attribute of greatness fueled an attribute of that. Remember, I was just talking to the coaches 2 hours earlier about goodness. And I laughed. And I responded, okay, I get it, Lord, okay. if I get this, let it be a blessing to someone else. I had no idea what that meant. But I did know that when I say someone else, the focus moves off me. So if I get it, because somebody is, or many people will, if I receive it, I want it to be a blessing to someone else. And I didn't run, I walked. And I sat down. And it was now 15 minutes. Here's what we found out. They had a glitch in United system. It was a United flight. And the next 2 days were fully overbooked. So you may not get home for 2 days. That changes things. But I have a brother in Chicago. So I sit down there, and 15 minutes before they were going to close the doors, there were still 5 seats left. So as I was sitting, remember the person at the desk said, Mr. Hull, time to get up and get on the plane. And just as I was getting up, you could hear this noise somewhere just down the hall. And very quickly we saw that there were 7 people coming. There were 7 healthcare workers from Poland who were on this flight to go to a conference. And there's 5 seats. There's now 8 of us. And their English was not great. And if you think back 20 years ago, when you don't have this, you don't have the ways to communicate we have now, you can feel pretty scared, unnerved. You're in a foreign country and you don't know what to do next. That's not a good position to be in. But they were forced into it because there's only so many seats. And they were arguing at the desk. And I remember the desk worker finally saying, stop. Choose who's going on or nobody is on. Because we're going to close the doors. And they told me, Mr. Hull, you need to get on because you have a ticket. And this time I said, no, I'm not getting on. Give it to one of them. Because I knew something. And so 5 of them got on. Lucas and Gregoire remained at the desk. The 2 guys who could speak English a little better than the others. And they closed it. They calmed down. And I said to the person working at the desk, I said this. If you trust me, ask me, if you trust me, I think I have a solution to your problem. Because I know you don't have a solution. I think I have one. Here's what I said. I don't live in Minneapolis. I live in Eau Claire. Eau Claire is 160 kilometers from Minneapolis. That's where I live. I fly out of Minneapolis, and then there's a shuttle. There's 15 times a day a shuttle goes back and forth that distance. Here's what I know that you don't know, ma'am. You, 2 times a day, morning and evening, 2 times a day, there are flights that come into my airport. That's it. Very small airport. 2 flights. From Chicago to Eau Claire. I bet there's seats on that flight. I said, if you put Lucas and Gregoire on that flight with me, my 2 new friends, you put them on that flight with me, I'll drive them to their hotel in Minneapolis. I'll drive them. And they, really? You do that? And then you start to get this guy back. I said, no, stop. I'm the winner here. I'm the winner, not them. Why? Now, what 2 words would you use to describe what I'm thinking of doing? What 2 words would you use now?
Kindness.
Kindness?
Sacrifice.
Yeah. I'm making a sacrifice out of kindness. So I get to move from here to here. I'm here. Because it's our hearts that matter most. especially when you're standing up and talking in front of people. I'm talking about coaches with athletes. It's sort of like this. I have been to Lagos 3 times now. And all 3 times I've been to the airport, I've been to the same hotel, and I've been to this venue to speak. That's it. But I've got some time this afternoon when we're done. If any of you are available, I would like to give you a tour of the rest of the city of Lagos. What's so funny?
That's about it.
You only know the airport and your hotel. How can you give it
So, why don't you want to go on a tour with me? Some people go, oh, I'll do that. We're going to see what this is like. And so you start out, oh, let's just see. He's a new guy. I'd like to see what he's got. But very quickly, you would move from interest to frustration to anger. Because I don't even know how to get transportation. And even if I got it, I don't know where to go. Don't be a tour guide to a land you haven't been to. Don't be a tour guide to a land you haven't been to. This is your journey to take first. In the first dimension, you can coach the sport and not play it very well. You can be a very good coach and not play the sport yourself very well. There are a lot of coaches like that. The majority of coaches cannot play the game as well as their players. The majority. But that doesn't mean they can't coach you. Because I know how to get you better. Every professional golfer has a golf coach. Every professional golfer's golf coach can't play golf as well as a golfer can. But he knows or she knows how to get the golfer to play better. You can coach the first dimension and not be that good at it and coach it. The second dimension, it's a little more difficult. But I can coach for confidence and not be real confident at times myself. I can understand motivation even when I'm struggling with it, but I can still coach it. Team cohesion, all of those things. But this dimension, you cannot lead where you are not going yourself. It is impossible. Because you will be shown when you say, everyone, let's deal with the attribute of respect. We want you as athletes to show respect. Respect for the team, respect for the other players, respect for the officials. But if you are disrespectful yourself to the officials, you have more problems. Because now you have hypocrisy. Because you told them one thing and you're modeling another. I want you to weed self-control, mental toughness, self-control. You've got to exercise that. And when you make a mistake and I blow up, what am I modeling? Not self-control. Self-indulgence, frustration. But if you model that, you better not be asking for something in this that you're not willing to do yourself. This is your journey to take first. It's my journey to take as well. So, sports builds character. We've said that. When it comes to it, what we mean is sports builds greatness. Sports builds performance character. What about this? Sports builds, do we ever say this? Sports builds moral character. Here's what we know, and the research is clear. The longer you're in sports, especially team sports, and you are all team sport coaches, so listen to this. The longer you play football, the more it builds performance character. The longer you play football, the more it erodes moral character. And the research is clear. Sport, left to itself, especially team sport, erodes moral character while it builds performance character. And you may not like that, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you something you like that's not true. Sport erodes moral character the longer you're in it. Why? Why? I'm not saying it's true for you. There are all kinds of exceptions. But I'm telling you what the rule is. And why is that the rule? Why do you think? And you might lose your job. That's a good point as well. If you don't win, you won't get that promotion. Or the pats on the back. And that's the voices that are in your heads, in some manner or fashion, all the time. Which voice do you listen to? Because if you don't actively choose otherwise, it's been determined for you. You're in the pressurized world of sport, and it's told you that winning is most important. What would it profit you if you won every competition at the price of your soul? You willing to sell your soul?
No.
See that? Everyone in here is going to get the right answer on the test. The right answer on the test is no. But do I value winning that much? If you thought coaching was easy, you just found out here. It's important and it can be powerful. But only if you choose so. Because if you're not actively listening to other voices, the voice of the sports world is really, really loud. Really loud. And you can't hear that still small voice if you're going to listen to that loud voice. Because what you end up with is over here. Who said, why does an act of kindness harm our opportunity to win? Why does helping an opponent off the field harm our opportunity to win? If I only know how to coach out of a sense of anger and a sense of superiority, whatever it is, I just don't know how to incorporate kindness. But I think when we want to talk about performing at our best, it needs to be our physical best and our moral best. Otherwise, we're just part of the problem. We're just part of the problem. And I don't care if you're Christ follower, I would say this. If you're not coaching out of both of these, then you're not following Jesus. You may say you're a Christian, but you're not following Jesus. You're not. I can definitively say that. Because Jesus would never put you over here. Always over here. Always over here. This is why I think if we want to help our players and ourselves rethink, because that's what you have to do. By the way, that's what the word repent means. You need to repent. Repent, the word repent is to think. You need to rethink everything. I'm if you submit to the rule and reign of King Jesus, then that's what it means to follow the king. If not, listen, those of you who aren't, I am not here to convince you of anything else. I just want you to look in your heart to be able to say, what is it that in the end, that I want? Do I want championships, or do I want people who are going to be good, moral citizens of our community who are going to make a difference? Who are going to lead, be responsible, and change this world for God? What do I want? What do I want? Some of you may have a lot of rethinking. You're going to leave here and you're going to be mad at me. I got no problem with that at all. I got a lot of people mad at me. But I want you to be mad at me for telling you the truth. You got to be thinking about this. So show you, it's my journey too. It's my journey too. But if you want to start on this track, here's one way. Think about the word compete. And when you say compete, are we competing with Ghana or against them? Are we competing with this team or against them? Those two words change our thinking, doesn't it? When I do something with someone, I think one way. If I do something against them, oh boy, all bets are off. Competition, the original definition, competir, to agree, means this: a coming together to agree, a striving together. A striving together. I want sport to build, I want you as coaches to think about building the best people you can possibly build. Because sport gives you the opportunity to do that. You guys know how to coach from this golf. I want you to think about at least how to model this golf. Because it really is modeled more than it is taught. The third dimension is really not taught as much as it is caught. You can teach it, but I gotta see it in you first. So this is one way. This is one way. Very simple, not easy. Catch yourself and your language when you say we're competing against, we're competing with this team. We're doing it together. Because I want to build the best players I can possibly get. This is the caution with you. Competition is powerful. So it needs to come with a warning label. Just like medicines. Powerful. But they give you a warning label to use them properly. When it's done improperly, competition is an exercise in self-interest. Instead of striving together, competition becomes when two or more individuals or entities strive after something for which only one can have. When it becomes an exercise in self-interest, this is what it leads to. Selfishness, jealousy, and when I'm that focused, it harms me in all three dimensions. Plus, it damages relationships, and at that level, when it's on top, it's idolatry, by definition. If winning is on top, it is an idol. And there are two things that we are warned about. One is idolatry, and the other is injustice. Idolatry and injustice. Right relationship with God and right relationship with others. Wrong relationship. Wrong relationship. Idolatry and injustice. And you got it in sport. So handle it with care. If you handle it right, wow, how amazing it is. Which means if I handle it wrong, wow, how awful it is. Anything that can be so good done right can be so bad done wrong. This should be really sobering for you as a coach. This should kind of wake us up and cause us to think. I've done this, So the language on the other side of this is the Ethiopian. I've got about 8 different languages. I've done it in Eastern Europe with some Soviet bloc countries. And it's fascinating to see coaches wrestle. I remember them with one of them just honest. It was actually wonderful to see them push back because they were actually engaging in their reality. Yeah, but this is our job, and we're going to lose our job, and if we don't win enough, and I get this, but they were just wrestling with it. And I finally said, stop. Let me ask you something. I've heard you coaches complain because I've been here 3 or 4 times, and this could be true here. I've heard you complain about business leaders and government officials and corruption. Right? You guys have complained about that. Yeah, corrupt level. You know what I've also heard from all of you is that you have issues in your football. This is with this. I wonder if you have it here. You have issues in football where 13-year-olds play on U11 teams, where older players get put on younger teams and get slid in there to play in that U11 tournament, and they're 13 years old. Do you guys have those issues here? You have those problems? Yeah? Wow. I asked the coaches. Do you think that 13-year-old doesn't know how old he is? Of course he knows how old he is, right? Do you think the 11-year-olds on your team don't know how old that 13-year-old is?
No.
They know, don't they? Sure they know. Then why are you doing it? Why is it a problem? Why? Because you want to win. Winning's on top. Right? But the coach is doing that. It can't be done without the coach, right? It's impossible to do that without the coach.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I asked them, how old are those government workers? How old are those government officials and businessmen? 50, 60 years old, something like that in there? Do you know that at one time, those 50 and 60-year-olds were 13? And do you know where they were? They were on your teams. Where did they learn selfishness for personal gain? They learned it on your teams. You taught them. Because it's only a difference in degree, not direction. It's just the gain that they have out of that selfishness is a difference in degree, but it's the same direction. You set them on that direction. They learned it on your teams. So you got 2 choices. Change how you coach or stop complaining because you taught them. Think about it. And then I said, let's flip that. What if we did it differently? What if, what's the name of your team? Do you have a team name? What a mascot? What is it? The Eagles, the what?
Flying Eagles, Super Eagles.
The what?
Flying Eagles.
Flying Eagles? Flying? Okay. What if we said this? Flying Eagles or Flying Eagles? What? Well, for English, we would say Flying Eagles. Flying Eagles. Say that. What if I were to say this? You're on this team. We are the Flying Eagles. Let me tell you about who the Flying Eagles are. If you're part of the Flying Eagles make sacrifices. The Flying Eagles have grit. And the Flying Eagles do justice and act honestly. That's what it means to be a Flying Eagle. So, and by the way, you're not just a Flying Eagle when you step on the field. You're a Flying Eagle when you're in your class. You're a Flying Eagle when you're at home because you're a Flying Eagle. And once you're a Flying Eagle, you are always a Flying Eagle. I don't care how old you are. You're a Flying Eagle. And that's what Flying Eagles are like. So I want you to be honest in your classroom. I want you to be honest at your job. I want you to demonstrate grit and perseverance at work as well. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to be honest. I don't care what another team does. This is who we are. They may come to beat us. We come to be us. And this is who we are. And so we will not do those things. We will not try to deceive the officials, because that's dishonest. We will play this game out of both of these columns. We will play with grit and intensity, and we will play with honesty and justice, because that's what Flying Eagles are. If you start doing that, tying it into life, because you'd also say, because one day, when you're a 50-year-old Flying Eagle who works for the government, Flying Eagles are honest. Flying Eagles do justice. So remember that. You work there. I want you to be honest. I want you to do justice. Because that's who we are. If we start to change how we coach, that influence, that little bit of influence that you have over a long period of time can make a big difference. And you can change your culture. Only coaches can change the culture. Because you have to make it look like something. That's the privilege of the position. If you were to understand that, say, if I know that part of my why, there's nothing that's going to keep me from doing what I'm doing. Because I'm going to persevere. If I lose my why, I lose my way. Why would I persevere if I've lost my way? In fact, you probably shouldn't. You should probably stop and get your way back. Your life will fall. Anyone not want to get out of coaching? I didn't know I signed up for that. Yeah. Until you're better paid, nobody's more influential. Nobody's more influential than coach. Let's give you something that just kind of a model for how you can do this. I want to take a 5 or 10 minutes. I want to pull this down and let's take some short breaks today. This is a little short. We'll get an hour or so into it. Take a little breather. Come back and build on it. But let's try to keep it to like 10 minutes. It's 11. Let's say 11:15. Let's see. I'm going to start at 11:25. For whoever's in the room, I'm starting at 11:25. So let's take a little breather. Take a little break. If you got to go to the bathroom, make a quick phone call, whatever it is, and then we'll be back to get started at 11:25.
Please, let's give it up to him. Please, I want to use the opportunity once again to plead your indulgence that we put our phones on silent. There are so many phones making noise in the hall. It's not healthy. My school has come all the way 10,000 miles away from Kenya, and he will leave today.
If you don't pay any attention, then I'm going to leave today. I'm leaving today anyway. So take a break here. Let's go. If you pay attention, I'm leaving. It doesn't matter. I'm still leaving.
Coach.
About sport, character, and your coaching, and what I might need to rethink, or what I just don't agree with. It's okay. I hope you don't agree with everything I share. I don't want to go somewhere where I just agree with everything that's shared. I need to hear other things because I know this. I'm wrong on some things. And if I agree with everything that's being shared, I'm not challenged with my own thinking. Because I could be wrong, or he or she could be wrong. But I need to wrestle with that. So I'm going to ask you, get in groups of 4, 5, 6, this first session that we just finished. We'll go on a little bit from there, but I want to just stop and let you talk to each other. Because that's where things get rooted more than just, again, this is not the best way to learn. This is a much better way. So let's get in some circles. Get in some circles and process what we just went through.
We're a phone group. 5 or 6.
Where we go down, I want to be a toughest player. And once we go down, now the referee will be shouting for first aid. But because the other coach knew that this man is dangerous,
coaching seminar, 3D coaching classes going on. This juncture is an interaction session. This is an interaction session going on 4th March during the 3D coaching class by Macro from the United States of America. This is BDFA Lagos State Football, but that is Divisional Football Association.
You just share with all of us, because somebody stand up and just say, boy, ours was just heated. We're coming to blows out of what it means to be good. So what was the conversation like from the groups? Somebody could just share with the rest of us, kind of summing up. Yes?
from my group, we talk about love, sharing love within the coaches. Now, what is it? Is it a crime if perhaps a coach have a deal and
Coach Bora, please. Coach Bora.
Please go ahead. Okay, is it so bad if a coach have a deal from somewhere and for a particular reason they ask that coach, we want this player with this quality, and to you, a coach that is so close to you, knowing too well that this coach have this boy that will go there and give and make it win-win for all of us. So why not you go there, pick that boy, take that boy there and make it great? And we find out because of there is no law within coaches, we see that same coach, he will take that boy there, claiming from that same spot that is the owner of the boy. So in this aspect now, it shows there is no law within we coaches. So we should try everything possible, share love within ourselves.
That's where we strive together. We do it together. By the way, if you think about these two columns, remember, I'm not saying that this column was more important than this column. Didn't say that. Because love is patient. Love perseveres. Patience and perseverance are the power, they give power to love. Because without patience and without perseverance, it is powerless. So both of them are important. And that's why when you talk about love in sport, you got to define it. You define it and then demonstrate it. We say love is sacrificial giving for the sake of another. You define it and then demonstrate it. So that's just a great kind of challenge and a different way of thinking. Are we in it? Are we doing this together? Or are we doing it against it? If we're doing it together, then that young man needs to be built up no matter where. Great, thank you for sharing. Somebody else. Your group.
Yes.
Loud in your coach voice so everybody can hear you.
We talked about selfishness. How you cannot take selfishness away from the game. Because from the onset, everybody wants to be a winner. It's not just we, the coaches, even club owners. By the time you keep failing in your assignments to handle a team, you get fired. Aside from this, we as grassroots coaches, when developing our players, we always want to create that mindset for them that they must always win, because when you lose to another coach, the coach goes out and starts broadcasting, telling people that he defeated your team. And nobody wants to allow that. So the next time you'll be planning a revenge against that team to beat that team, and then you to go do the same announcement. So selfishness is one thing that cannot be taken out of the game. That is one thing we saw.
I would say this. Selfish ambition and vain conceit are the two things that Jesus tells us to take out. You can take it out by rethinking it. Selfish and self-control, two different things, unless we define them. Here's the thing. We want to say, if it is selfish, it's sort of like being childish. We're called to be childlike, but not childish. It's the ish that makes it the problem. If we can't take it out, then selfish ambition, here's the thing, you might win more, and you will damage more. If I want to be selfish at home, I will get more of mine, and I will damage my family and others because of it. Here's coaches, this is what we say. It is not selfish to say, you need to get into the weight room because you need to get stronger. That's about self. You need to work on these skills if you want to get better. That's about self. We make it selfish if it's all about you, because we need you to be better for the team. You need to be better for others. But the only way we can do that is if we tie it back into this column. Tie it back into this column. It's not a, so, this is the skill of coaching. You zoom in. You need to. You need to. Those are zooming in. You need to. But we also have to zoom out. There's a bigger picture to this. Because it's not all about you. If we make it all about you, there's no way to create team cohesion. Because you got 11 individuals and not one team. And then we also have to say, if the other team, we need the other team. Without the other team, we don't have a game. We need them. And we need them to bring their best also. That's the point. We need to bring our best. You have to work on yourself to become the best version of yourself. That's not selfish. Because the best version of myself needs to be the best version for others as well. That's what I'm saying. If we can rethink, and if that coach is going out and doing that, you can't control that. But do you want to become that? Now they're forming you. They're doing it so I can do it. That sounds like an excuse. Now I'm living below the line. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I get it. This is the kind of rethinking we need to make. If we really believe you have to be selfish, then that's what we'll coach. And we'll create the government official who is selfish. And we'll create the businessman who is selfish. Because we made them selfish here. We can make them, we say, no, not selfish, the best version of yourself. And selfish is a terrible version of yourself. Selfless. Thinking of yourself less and others more is a better version. But if I'm no good, and I'm thinking of others, I'm still no good. I want you to be the best version of yourself. Selfishness is not the best version of yourself. That's how you can rethink that. To say, yes, I've got to work on myself. I've got to get better at these things. I've got to do this. But I want to be the best version of myself. So I need to work from this column too. That's the kind of rethinking we want you to do. That's the kind of rethinking that it means to live under the rule and reign of one who wants us to be that. Thank you for sharing that. That is what we're wrestling with. How do we make this look different and still build the best version of our players? Another group, somebody else. Yes.